My name is Miguel Mata, first generation American, retired military veteran, and now full-time college student. In my lifetime, I've come to meet people from all walks of life, every corner of the country and most parts of the world. What I can tell you is, everyone has a story. On this channel, I plan to share those stories with you and prove that despite the differences that make each of us who we are as individuals, fundamentally, we are all the same. I believe that by telling these stories, I'll actually reveal we are all connected by the common thread of overcoming adversity, caring for our loved ones, and helping our communities. And that by doing this, I can shed some light on what many of us believe to be a very dark world. And now, to shed more light. This Way Out. Hello, welcome back to This Way Out. Miguel Mata here with another awesome person who's doing great things for herself and the community. Remember, we here on This Way Out, we try to show ways of, the world it can seem so like, ugh. But there's good stuff happening. And who I have with me today is Lily Dagdag. And she's just going to share some stuff about what she's got going on in the world and say, hey, look, we've got good people, good stuff still happening, still proving it. And she's not a celebrity, and she's not, maybe you will be someday. Not a celebrity quite yet, It's not in, the big people that we see on TV. She's, regular person, just like you and anybody who's watching. So Lily, thanks for being on my show.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. I don't know, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
So, I am a business owner. I ran a business with my twin sister. We've been in business for about 10 years. I'm also a student, currently doing my second degree in graphic design. My first degree kind of just sits in a corner doing nothing because I don't do anything with it. I've been married to my high school sweetheart for over 13 years. He was in the military for 7 years until an injury meant that he was medically discharged a few years ahead of schedule. I have 3 kids, 5, 9, and 12. My 5 and 9-year-old are autistic, which presents some fun days and some not so fun days. Other than that, I spend a lot of my free time watching K-dramas online and reading books whenever I actually have time to focus on a book.
Awesome. K-dramas, those seem to be getting a lot more popular nowadays. I don't know anything about them. But
I fought them so hard because I was like, no, I will not watch something where I need to read subtitles. But yeah, eventually I got into them.
Yeah, they're definitely picking up in popularity. I know of a couple people that are very much into them. That's so fascinating. Where are you from originally? Where are you at right now?
We're in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
Only about 20 minutes out of Washington, D.C. And I'm originally from the Philippines.
Oh, originally from the Philippines. Okay. That's really cool. You can kind of hear it, right? In your accent, you kind of hear it. It's kind of neat. I used to get confused, just whatever, FYI. I might delete this, but just FYI, when I was active, right? Especially happened when I would go to Korea, the Filipino people would always come up to me and ask me if I was Filipino. I was like, I'm not Filipino. Sorry, y'all. Sorry. I'm Mexican. Nobody really knows where anybody is from nowadays. We're all mixed up. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. And what you have going on, something that I wanted to feature especially was that business that you're into. You said you're in a business with your twin sister. And what kind of business is it?
So we started our first business 10 years ago when my husband was overseas in Korea. I said, a day job just isn't going to happen. So forget this. I'm just going to do something on my own. And my twin sister had already gotten burned out of her corporate job after only a year. So she's like, you know what? I'll go ahead and do that with you. So we spent about 4 years wasting time doing this, doing that, switching back and forth. Until September 2013 when we finally landed on website design. So that is what we do now. We completely do website design with WordPress. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to launch our passion project, which is Operation Site Launch. We were at a local event for entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs. And I was thinking, I think it's so amazing what they're doing here. They're helping people who are sort of in the process of getting out of the military to figure out what they want to do with their lives after they get out. And I was like, what can I do in a similar way to help the military? And I was like, hey, I already do websites. I'll just do that. So for a while, we were basically providing discounted website services to military entrepreneurs. Last year, I decided to kind of, in some ways, narrow my focus, but in others, broaden it, where we decided to mainly focus on military spouses, just because it's easier when I'm marketing it to be like, it's for military spouses, not it's for active veteran, whatever. It just gets to be too long. But in another way, we've sort of widened our focus where we kind of want to become an all-in-one resource for military spouses, including accountability, coaching, everything they could need from when they're starting their business all the way up until the first year of their business, so they can get assistance in sort of running and growing in the day-to-day of the business.
And then I would imagine, somewhere along the way, what probably, helped you decide to make it military spouse focus is that you're a military spouse yourself. You know a little bit about what it means to be a military spouse.
Absolutely. I mean, I always say to people, I can speak to a military spouse's pain point. I can't speak to a veteran's pain point. I couldn't be a veteran. I'd never passed boot camp. But I can absolutely speak to military spouses because that's a life that I lived for a while. And I mean, you never really stop being a military spouse, do you?
Yeah. I was just thinking to myself, my wife just said something close to that. You know what I mean? She's just saying stuff, talking about that stuff. Just out of curiosity, what is it? Is it hard to get a website generated for someone? I mean, like, I guess what I'm asking is, let's say there's a military spouse out there that has an idea that they would like to work at home. Do you have like starter programs for them, or do they have to have the whole idea for themselves, what business they want to get into?
So we're kind of changing our offerings to really account for the fact that we're working with people who are just getting started, right? For a long time, all we did was offer our regular services, but at a discounted price. And then we realized it didn't really make any sense because the people in our regular business are people who are supposed to be well established versus the people in Operation Site Launch are supposed to be people who are just getting started. The needs of the two markets are completely different, even outside of the whole military aspect. So that's why we've kind of changed our offerings to reflect the fact that it's for people who are just getting started. The thing about websites is websites are about as complicated as you want to make them, right? You can make a website that has 1,000 pages, so many different effects, blah, blah, or you could make something that's relatively simple. Nowadays, we work with WordPress, but there are website builders like Wix, Weebly, whatever, Squarespace that are drag and drop. And if you can't afford to hire a professional, I absolutely think that you should be able to DIY in this, day and age where there is stuff available like that. However, I think the one thing that's missing is that too many people think that because you can drag and drop that anybody can build a website, which I guess technically is true. Anybody can build a website, but can anybody build?
Technically, sure. I built my own website through Wix. It looks not good.
But can they build a website that will actually land them business? I don't know. That's an entirely different question. So I think that the strategy there is sort of what's missing when too many people try to kind of DIY. So that is one of the resources that we will be coming out with soon, is something to help people kind of plan their website from beginning to end. That way, even if they don't hire us, even if they do it on their own, at least the website will be built with an idea of who am I designing this website for? How do I want them to use the website? And how do I get that across in the design? Which I think for most people should be enough to at least get them to have something that's professional and that will work in the meantime until they can either learn more or afford to hire somebody else.
There was something that I wanted to highlight. Really, there really is a bit of a personal angle to this entrepreneurship that you're going that you're that you're working on right now, right? And it's a message that I think that can speak to a lot of people, especially wives and women, and maybe some guys. But I asked you when we did our little pre-interview, had you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? And you said something in that conversation that I think that was such an important message. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah, and I actually repeated it on another podcast the other day, so I'm glad it happened and I was talking to you. A lot of people will say, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur my entire life. I always knew that's what I was going to be. I definitely did not. For the first 20 years of my life, I thought I was going to go to law school, become a lawyer, blah, blah, all of that, until I decided, no, I don't want that, and kind of threw that out the window. When me and my husband got married, I was working at a nonprofit, and I loved what I did there, but once he came back from his first deployment, I had to leave that job, and I wasn't able to start working there again because of the constant moves. So I went ahead and started my own business, more out of necessity than anything else. But one thing I've found, the reason that's kept me going is that having this business is like a creative outlet for me. It's something that I'm able to do, something that I really love, and at the end of the day, something that's mine. Being a military spouse, more often than not, you get called by your husband's last name, or I guess your last name, and not your name. I guarantee you a majority of his buddies don't know my first name because they call me Dagdag's wife or Mrs. Dagdag. And it's the same thing, being the mom of two special needs kids. Whenever I go to school, I'm Jordan's mom or I'm Emily's mom. I'm not even Mrs. Dagdag. I'm just their mom. But in the business world, especially as I get known more and more around different communities, whether it's the military spouse entrepreneur community or the veteran community or just female business owners, I'm able to have something that's really mine. And I think that, having something that defines my identity outside of being a mom and a military spouse and a special needs mom is really important. And it's really been helpful to me and has kind of helped me through some of the darker times. Even right now, with everything that's going on with COVID, I still have my business. I still get up every morning and do what I have to do to run my business. And I know that that's mine. And not even apparently the COVID can take that away.
Yeah. There's kind of another layer to this that I happen to speak to quite a bit on this podcast and on this project, which is, if you're someone, and I don't know if this is necessarily you, I think you just kind of mentioned it, with, there's just something that I speak to when it comes to like depression and anxiety is that if you can have purpose, a reason to get up in the day. And recently I shared a message about how, if you feel yourself being overwhelmed or you get those anxious feelings, you have to make your circle small. You have to shrink your bubble. You have to break things down to their simplest parts, which is, break it down to the W's. Get up out of bed. Brush your teeth, that sort of stuff. But get dressed and get ready for the day, even if you don't have anything planned. And at least if you have a business, even if it's a small business or a website or something like that, to me it sounds like a good way to give yourself purpose. Just like you said, this is a part of your identity. This is a part of who you are. And I feel like I could be speaking out of turn here because I don't want to speak for everybody, and I definitely don't want to talk about something I'm not qualified to speak to. But it just seems to me like, especially with women nowadays, maybe less now, but only minutely less than previous, is women have been having to put their selves, their identity aside so they can be moms and so they can be wives. And I think it's awesome when you talk about your entrepreneurship, your business gives you an identity. And anytime anybody can find their purpose and find their identity, I think that's spot on. So congratulations. Good for you.
And I think it's interesting that you bring it up in the lens of the depression and anxiety, because I've been dealing with both for a long time, at least since high school. And we won't talk about how long ago that was, but it's a long time. Um, and, a lot of times, either my husband or my therapist will say, well, then why don't you stop working if you're so stressed out? Because that's one less thing on your plate. And I'm like, but work is the only thing that keeps me sane. Like, I understand it can be stressful, especially when you're a business owner. You kind of have to wear all the hats and do the things you may not always want to do. And I can at least split that with my sister. But so at the end of the day, there's the less pleasant parts of my business. But at the same time, like, it is one of the few things that keeps me sane because of the fact that I actually do love what I do. I love being able to make an impact in my clients' lives. I love the connections that I get to make with people and the creativity of doing a design from start to finish and being able to come up with something that I truly love. All of those things are things that certainly outweigh the stressors that it may bring me on some days. So it's easier said than done to say, well, then if you stop working, you'd have less stress. Maybe in theory, but even if I did, it would also take away the positive parts of my business.
Right.
And I certainly think that would outweigh it.
For me, that don't work. And I don't mind as a devil's workshop.
Right.
I've got to be. I've got to be busy. I'm just speaking for me. Sounds like maybe you're kind of the similar type person. But if I don't have anything to do, I could spin myself, into the ground.
Right.
It'll be good. So, but good for you. Good for you. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear. I'm not necessarily happy to hear that depression and anxiety is something that you deal with. But it's good that you get help. And that's another message that I try to get out is that if you experience things like that, you should definitely get help. Talk to somebody, talk to a professional if you can. So you're talking to someone, and that's good. And you're kind of seeing the benefits of all of that stuff in your story right now. The having purpose, having an identity, finding your identity, talking to a professional. Talking to a loved one, you're doing it. That's awesome. That's awesome. We got it all. We got all the parts right here. And
I also think, another important thing for me has been, especially with the children being home all day, every day, thanks to COVID, is finding something that doesn't involve a screen, right? Like my handwriting, very not stereotypically, is terrible. People are always surprised when they see my handwriting because they expect a neat little block type, and that's just not how I do. But so hand lettering is actually something that I've taken up so that I can slow my mind down and really focus on what I'm doing on something that's not, screen related. And I think it's really helped because, again, it's something else that's just for me. And it's something that forces me to focus on the moment when too often I'm kind of just moving from one thing to the other. And so I think that's very important for not just moms or wives, pretty much anybody, to really have hobbies in this day and age that don't involve a screen because,
absolutely, yeah.
I'm pretty much staring at a screen 24/7.
Right,
so anything that could take me away from it is a good idea.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's awesome advice. To kind of get back on track with the business, just one quick question. Well, I guess I got a couple more questions, but are you guys seeing any success? Are you doing okay? Are you still?
So,
I mean, I'm sure you're always in the business to look for more clients, but I mean, are you guys doing okay?
I mean, I will say our business is not a 6-figure business. It's not something that we've quite reached yet, but we work with a lot of different people and we have steady enough business going on. Could it be better? Sure. Partially why I'm doing, stuff like this, interviews to kind of get the word out. My sister and I have actually set a goal to help 100 military spouses this year. And we're nowhere close. So we'd really like to get the word out about it. Whether it's through the website design or through our mentoring program that's coming up or our courses that we're getting ready to launch as well. We really want to be able to help as many military spouses as we can to start, run, or grow the business of their dreams. I feel like I haven't really taken advantage, which is a horrible way to put it, but of the military community up until very recently, where I really realized that it's not just a benefit for me, but I mean, there are a lot of people within the military community that could use my help. And I just don't think that I was really thinking about that and reaching out to people as much as I could have. So we haven't really had too many military clients short of like personal referrals from people that we already knew and worked with in the past.
Right.
So it's only in the past really few months that we've started kind of reaching out to people to see who we could work with and who we could help more in this capacity. But we're hoping that can change, in the next few months with everybody kind of trying to get back to their new normal. and trying to figure out if that new normal includes a job or if it includes starting their own business, especially with, people realizing that nothing is really guaranteed nowadays. My husband's job is something that you would have thought isn't going anywhere, but now, COVID has hit the tourism industry very hard. And we're not sure if they'll ever go back to normal. And even if they do, how long that'll take. So I can understand why for some people they might be like, now's as good a time as any to make that leap. Like, if I'm not getting a paycheck anyway, might as well do what I love.
That's what I always say. I say, go for it. Unfortunately, that's gotten me into trouble a couple times, but whatever.
That was, I don't know if you've ever seen the speech that Jim Carrey made at a commencement ceremony when he was talking about his father, who was an accountant or something for a long time, and he ended up getting fired, and their whole family was like messed up financially for a while because of it. He was like, and that taught me you can fail at doing what you don't love, so you might as well do what you love. And that's a message that has always resonated with me. Because it's absolutely true, right? You can work in an industry your whole life and end up getting fired right before it's time to get your pension. Right. And then you've spent your whole life planning for something that didn't even work out. And, it is what it is. Now, I always tell my sister with a caveat, I understand that I'm speaking from a place of privilege. My husband makes a steady paycheck. So when I follow my dreams, he's coming behind me with the steady paycheck. So that's easier said than done for me. But and I know for other people, it's not necessarily an option. But if it's an option, I absolutely encourage you to follow your dreams and to actually find something that you care about, because it makes times like what's going on now that much easier to handle when you're actually doing something that you love instead of dreading getting up every morning.
Right. Totally agree. Wow. I'm excited. I don't know. That's another great thing about this project is I love talking to ambitious people. Because when I talk to ambitious people, I just get amped up and I'm ready to take on like 10 more projects, and that's not good. But I love you've got some really great energy, and I tell you what, I really, really wish you the best of luck, and I'll do what I can through this platform to try to maybe bring some attention your way if I can. But congratulations on finding your identity and getting your business started, especially going into business with your sister, your twin sister. That's got to be cool.
Most days it is. I mean, it's just about setting boundaries, right? I don't say anything to her that I wouldn't say to a coworker that wasn't family. And following that rule, we've only had like one argument in 10 years, business related. We've only had one argument in 10 years, which is pretty good for us. So it really is about, drawing boundaries. But at the same time, people are like, you have your sister. Isn't she great for accountability? No, I'm a bad influence on her. She's a bad influence on me. Nothing ever gets done. Like, it's terrible.
That's pretty cool.
It is terrible.
That sounds like it could be fun. I understand it could also probably add a little bit to the stress, but it sounds like it could be fun. Well, I tell you what, you know what? I got one more question. I know I asked you a little bit, like, do the spouses have to come with you with ideas, that sort of stuff? Just out of curiosity, what kind of ideas, if you have any to share, what kind of ideas have worked? What kind of ideas have you worked with? What kind of have worked? What kind of ideas would you recommend for spouses, maybe?
So recently we launched our challenge, which is the 5 days to launching your side hustle as a VA business. The title is something along that. But the point is, we're teaching military spouses how to start their own virtual assistant business, which I think is ideal for pretty much any military spouse. It can travel with you. You can do it out of your own home on your own schedule, and you can do it based on the skills that you have, right? Like in my case, I know how to do WordPress. If I wanted to be a WordPress virtual assistant, I could do that. You could be a virtual assistant that does the administrative stuff that you would think of as an assistant in an office doing, like calendar, email, that sort of thing. If you were good at social media, you could do social media graphics and posting and that sort of stuff. So the good thing about a virtual assistant is it really is very flexible in that you can be as niche as you want or as general as you want and work with whoever you want. And the startup costs are minimal, right? Most people have a computer. That's pretty much all you need to be a virtual assistant. Okay. Now, I will say, being a virtual assistant, like any other business, you still have the problem of finding clients, sure, but you're gonna have that with pretty much any business. But regarding us like starting up and what you need in order to start up, I think it's kind of the easiest thing for most military spouses to do. Now, the other option for military spouses would be for anyone who's actually crafty. I am not. But for anyone who is crafty, they could make products and sell them on Etsy, sell them on their website, sell them on Amazon. The only thing about that is, depending on where you PCS, then that is a little bit harder to travel with you, because if you have to ship products, that may become harder depending on where you go. So something that includes products, whether it's handmade or anything else, that's the only consideration you'd have, But I think that for most military spouses, it's about finding what you already do and what you're already good at, and finding a way to translate that into a way to make money, right? If you're a fitness person, you start a fitness blog and you sell, exercise plans and nutrition plans. The last person that we spoke to on my sort of Facebook live show, she was, I want to say a dietitian or a nutritionist. And she started her own online business doing meal plans for people. So it really is about taking what you love and then finding some sort of way to kind of turn it into a product or turn it into a service, and then, being able to use that to make money. There's actually quite a few resources out there for military spouses to help them start and run their business. The only thing I would say about those resources is sometimes they can be kind of general, because of the fact that they're trying to help as many people as possible. But sometimes that kind of backfires and you don't necessarily get all the help that you need. So it's important for spouses, for any resources that they use, to make sure that they are taking that into account, taking into account what they really need, and, only using the resources that will actually benefit them. Because otherwise you're just wasting your time and spinning your wheels. Yeah. And I know all about that.
Yeah, I'm a little familiar too. Well, I'll tell you what. How do people find you? How do they get in touch with you?
So my main website is sitebiz, SYTBIZ.com. And for my passion project is Operation Site Launch, OperationSYTLaunch.com. And then on Facebook, it's SiteBiz. And on Instagram, it's a SiteBiz. Now, I'm not actually that active on Instagram, but if you want to find me on there, you can. Okay. People always ask us why our name is SiteBiz or Operation Site Launch. And they said, is that site like in website? And I'm like, no, because when we first started our website design business in 2013, we were actually Save Your Time Biz Solutions, but we would keep shortening it to Site Biz Solutions. Yeah. And then I think after 2 years, we dropped the solutions and it just became Site Biz. Yeah. And then we were like, oh, that actually sounds like website. And we just kept using it that way.
There you go.
And we're actually going to trademark it too. But I was like, it's a complete coincidence that was how that happened, because it was cool, just complete chance.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, you know what? This is the part before we conclude here. This is I didn't prepare you for this, right? Pop quiz. No, it's not a pop quiz. I like to try to get as genuine a responses as I can. Before I conclude these interviews, I like to ask whoever I'm interviewing if they could share any piece of advice, any nugget of information, anything at all with anyone, like life advice, anything, whatever. It could be something that completely different than what you've already mentioned. If there was anything that you would share that you could share with anyone, what would it be?
I think that this is an important thing for military spouses, moms, but pretty much anybody it applies to, is that you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. A few years ago, I had a random doctor's appointment after I'd been hiding from the doctor for a while, and they ended up finding a problem, which if it had not been found could have turned into something much bigger and much worse. But it was just lucky that I happened to go to the doctor. Considering that I take my kids to the doctor every other week, I couldn't find 15 minutes to take myself because, mine's not as important. My kids are important. But if that had, progressed, then my kids wouldn't have anyone to take care of them. So I think it's really important for anybody to remember that you have to take care of yourself too. And first, if anything, because if you're not feeling well, if you're not taking care of yourself, whether that's mentally, physically, then you're not really left with anything to give to other people. and then everybody else suffers too anyway. So if you need that in order to justify to yourself why you take care of yourself, then that's as good a thing as any to tell yourself. But the reality is, you have to remember that you're just as important as everybody else. And so you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself just as well as you're doing for whether it's your kids, your husband, anyone else. You have to take care of you too.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Thank you for sharing that. And I think anybody who hears that, hopefully, they will take that to heart, because it as young or old, it applies to so many people under so many situations. So thank you very much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Well, Lily, Dagdag, thank you very much for being a guest on my podcast show, interview. I still haven't quite got it figured out what the heck this is, but I appreciate you sitting down with me and talking with me and sharing your story, sharing a little bit of your time. I really hope that this is going to make an impact on someone. Whether it does immediately or down the road, it's going to make a difference. So I really appreciate you sharing your time. Hopefully we can get some people headed your direction, so you can help so you can meet that 100 military spouse goal, right? Helping 100 military spouses. Really appreciate your time though. And I wish you all the best, all the best success, future endeavors, so on and so forth, with the family especially. And thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
If you liked this episode and you want to see future episodes, this is on YouTube. For the YouTube followers, click like, subscribe, and share, please. Hit the little bell for the notifications so that way you hear about future episodes. This will be put down into podcast form, and the podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Castbox, and it'll also be on my website, thiswoe-light.com. Take care. I really appreciate your time again, Lily. You guys take care. God bless.